Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Drew and you're once again watching Drew the Theme Park Dude. Today's video I'll be ranking all 10 haunted houses found at this year's Halloween Horror Nights event at Universal Studios Florida. Before I begin, it would mean a lot if you could hit that subscribe button as well as the like button to support the channel. Now, off to the video. Halloween Horror Nights 2023 is officially over, and that means it is time to go back and rank all 10 haunted houses that were at the Orlando event this year. I know it's almost Christmas time, and I know for some of you it is Christmas time, as it is the end of November at the time of recording this, so this video isn't being released at the best timing, but I've been working really hard on it and been trying to get a lot of other stuff done, been super busy, so I'm finally getting around to this ranking, and I wanted to make sure I got this ranking out there, because I think it's a pretty interesting one, that I don't know if it's going to be similar to a lot of others. Quick thing before the ranking begins, this is my list and not the only list, so please be sure to comment down below your own rankings because, yeah, this is my opinions. I'd love to see what yours are. Also, this in no way is criticizing the scare actors' abilities, as I believe they all did amazing, and I thank them a ton for bringing us these great scares every single year. I also had a grand total of 62 house runs throughout the entire event, and I went 10 different nights, so that's just kind of an idea on my experience at this year's event. Now, off to the ranking. In 10th place, we have Chucky Ultimate Kill Count. After all of the hype I had for this one, I was definitely underwhelmed by how this house was executed. The idea with the meta, whole idea of Chucky taking you through his own haunted house that he's taken over because he didn't like that nobody was actually dying, so Chucky comes in and, makes it real. And it didn't really work, and they kind of blended in with the original story for the house, so it wasn't really that distinctive, and they had like these TVs throughout the house, and they were very hard to hear at times. It did get better throughout the season, though, I will give it that. And of my 5 runs, that I had this year for this house, and I could tell the actors were trying their best with what they were given. The scare, placement was questionable. This was located in the Fast and Furious tent, so, it's a very wacky layout, and it worked for, houses like Blumhouse, I feel like last year, where it was divided up. But there's this weird outdoor section that divides up the two halves of this house, and they try to fake you that it's over, but, it's way too early in the house because the first part's like, 2 minutes, and the second part's 5 minutes, so it's very different. There was a couple interactive stuff that was cool where you could press a button, but the sets were pretty, not that impressive. It just compared to other houses at the event, this one by far felt the weakest. And yeah, it doesn't, feel like a Halloween Horror Nights house, that I would expect from this event. Still, though, I think they tried their best. I think the actors did a great job. There was some good scares in there. I think it was cool to see some stuff being replicated from the movies and TV show, but it was all scaled severely down due to the location. That's number 10. Continuing on to 9th, we have Blood Moon Dark Offerings. There's a huge quality gap between Chucky and this house, just to let you all know. Which set design, this house was incredible. The house has some incredible scenes with an incredible soundtrack as well. I got a total of 7 run-throughs of this house. My favorite scene in this one is the bell tower at the end, with an actual actor ringing it at the top as you enter the church finale. There's a lot of neat, unique scares in this one. They get very repetitive, and that is one of my big criticisms with it. And the placement definitely fell off, and the story can be confusing at times. And it's just the competition really, when I say how big of a gap there is between this and Chucky, I mean it because, if these top 9 are, I would say, they were all really enjoyable houses. Even Chucky was enjoyable at times. It's just, just way weaker than this one. The sets in Blood Moon were great, and yeah, the competition of really just me enjoying the other houses more, which is what caused me to place this towards the bottom of my list. 8th place goes to Dueling Dragons Choose Thy Fate. This house easily has some of the best sets of any house this year, but everything else falls way short compared to the other haunted houses that were offered at this year's event. This house has tons of fan service and a great homage to the original Dueling Dragons B&M dueling inverted roller coaster that was found at the now defunct Merlinwood that was at Universal Islands of Adventure. The haunted house replicates several of the queue elements perfectly, which can still be seen on Hagrid's, which utilizes the same queue building. And, this is all before guests come face to face with Pyrock and Blizzrock, both in their wizard and dragon forms. The ending is also very unique because it allows guests to actually choose thy fate by picking Fire Ice, which can either have Merlin win, which causes the world to be saved, or Pyrock or Blizzrock winning, causing world domination and destruction. I made sure to do both the Ice and Fire side equal amounts of time, so, I could make sure that I had a great understanding of, both sides, and because, I wanted to make sure they weren't too different. They're very similar, and scare-wise, they did get repetitive really fast, and there isn't much of intense moments in this house besides a great double scare with Pyrock and Blizzrock. I only got the scare about twice, though, out of my 8 run-throughs, and this is one of the houses I missed tons of scares, even though I did it 8 times throughout the event, with 4 on going on fire and 4 going down ice, which is really just the very end with 1 or 2 extra scares. So yeah, that's really the only thing I have to say about Dueling Dragons, Choose Thy Fate. In 7th place is The Exorcist Believer. This house is scary, like the scariest HHN house I've ever done, and I have been going since 2019. I only got 3 run-throughs of this one, but every time I was getting dropped to the ground and getting scared a ton. This was one of the few haunted houses really ever that I've gone through that I was legitimately terrified as I was leaving or running through towards the end. Main issue though for me was the story and just personal preference. This house had the hard task of trying to tell a story for a movie that isn't even out yet, so they can't spoil too much, which I understand, but for a haunted house, especially where you're trying to tell stories, it doesn't work. And you just see a lot of these different scenes. You don't really know what they are, what's going on. You think maybe it's okay, this girl's getting, exercised or something, and then these people are in the woods searching for the girl, and, it has some elements, in there, but there's really no concrete story. And I'm just also not a huge fan of the film. I've never seen this one, The Exorcist Believer, but I'm not a fan of the original. I have no interest in seeing Exorcist Believer. So just, personal preference for me. And that's, why this list is very subjective, and it's my list, not your list, so make sure you comment down below, where does Exorcist Believer fit on your ranking, as I do agree it is, one of the scariest houses Horror Nights has ever had. 6th place goes to Stranger Things 4. Based on the newest season of Netflix's Stranger Things, guests are transported into Vecna's realm, encountering all of the terrifying moments from the show. I had a grand total of 6 run-throughs of this house across all my events that I attended, and this house started a lot higher on my list, I will say, but as I got more run-throughs, I began to miss several scares, and didn't have that repeatable feeling that many of the other houses have this year. It felt very much of like a one-and-done kind of house, especially, with the very convincing 1 to 2 hour wait, and the house being relatively on the shorter end compared to the others, and, it's also 80% Vecna, which means, there's going to be lots of Vecna in there, it's going to be pretty scary, but I wanted to see kind of the other stuff that happened in Season 4, like the stuff that was going on in California or in Russia, but they don't ever go there. You don't even see Hopper in the house. You don't even see half of the kids in the house. You just see what's going on in Hawkins with Vecna in his realm and all the people that he attacks and terrorizes. You do see Eddie, though, in there with the guitar, so, that was definitely the highlight for me of that house. But, I did enjoy the costumes a ton, and the details within the sets themselves were not too bad at all. Lots of great recreations of scenes from the season, and I'm looking forward to an inevitable Season 5 house in a few years. Beginning the top 5, we have the Community House of the Year winner, Yeti Campground Kills. One of the scarier houses at the event, Yeti offers some intense scares due to the gigantic Yetis at every corner getting right up in your face, and they also do some, it has some incredible sets, and makes you really feel immersed in this campground environment. Huge scale sets, like there's this huge ranger tower, there's like a lake over, you go on like a porch and you see this whole lake with like a Yeti out there and he runs up towards you. Lots of scares happening, on either side of you, and there's like mini scenes that play, because the story is some kid kills a baby Yeti, and then the big Yetis get really angry and just want to kill anybody that they see. So the rangers, us as guests, and the people are just chilling there. So you get to see a lot of different stuff that's going on throughout the campground. It's a pretty long house. Definitely is one of the more intense houses. Not cold, but that's fine. This was a really fun house, and I had a total of 6 run-throughs during the event, and yeah, never had a bad scare experience in this one. Taking 4th place, we have this year's Icon's very own house, Dr. Oddfellow's Twisted Origins. This house is one of the most underrated houses at the event this year, and I stand by that. It was in my top 3 for a majority of the season, but then dropped to 4th due to a couple last-minute changes that I had to this ranking after sitting down and thinking about it, but this easily could be a top 3 house. From this house onward, I would say 4, 3, 2, and 1 could almost go in any order, and at all, at some point in time, they were my favorite house. So, this is just how it currently sits, but even, in a week from now, 4 could switch with 2 or vice versa. So it's, this house was really good though. It is filled with tons of HHN nostalgia, including Jack the Clown, also offering some incredible sets and scares, all while being placed inside a sprung tent. So you don't even know you're inside this tent, which normally have the smaller, lower scale houses, but no, not this year. I mean, Wicked Growth was incredible in 2021, I believe, and that was a sprung tent, but the sets in this one surpassed Wicked Growth in almost every way. Wicked Growth was great, scenic design, great scares, and in my opinion still was the better house, but Oddfellows is just really a great haunted house. Really works. The story is easy for guests to follow. Even if you don't know Dr. Oddfellow, it's still a circus with clowns, so it still works. Always had a pretty long line. Great to see the icon, Dr. Oddfellow. He's a great character created by Horror Nights. One of my favorite icons personally. We just really got to meet him this year. He's been around for years, but this is the first year we got to see him at the front of the event. Hoping to see a return, maybe a Jack vs. Oddfellow house? Who knows? But yeah, during my 6 run-throughs of this house, I really got to appreciate everything it has to offer. Making the top 3, we have The Last of Us. Now, this is a huge, I know a lot of people felt very differently about this house, but as a huge fan of the TV show and video games, this haunted house really stood out to me. There's no way I was not going to, like this house. I had it number 1 on my most anticipated list since it was announced. I've been super much, I was looking forward to this. I replayed the game for it, very excited to have gotten this, house at the event, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting more, Last of Us content in the future, maybe part 2, who knows. But great haunted house, offers incredible scares. I mean, the main complaint was it felt like a Walking Dead house, just like a zombie house if you didn't know, But if you were a fan of the game, they picked about, 20-30 minutes of the game, and they, went around from parts of it, and they replicated it perfectly. They, right where there's an NPC in the game, there's an NPC in the house. Right where there's a gunshot with a dude running at you, that happens. The truck in the house, that happens. Bloaters attacking you under, the house area, that happens. I mean, it's so well done. The costumes look so lifelike, like the bloaters and clickers, Joel and Ellie. They felt, like those characters. And we didn't get to see a ton of Joel and Ellie over here in Orlando. I will say that is something I will give props to Hollywood's version from what I saw videos of. But in Orlando, we still got a great house, in my opinion. And set-wise, it was also phenomenal. I mean, the QZ was recreated perfectly. This house surpassed all of my expectations and was like stepping into a game. I had 6 run-throughs of this house as well, and it improved every single time. I mean, this house did not have suffer from a long line like Stranger Things, but unlike Stranger Things, this house had so much rewalkability to it, if that makes sense, like rerideability. But yeah, loved this house and would love to see more in the future of The Last of Us. Taking second place, we have The Darkest Deal, based on the Robert Johnson American folk story, starring a musician who trades his soul for fame, and lots of bad stuff happened. In the Horror Nights version, it's Pine Straw Spruce is the musician's name, and he trades his soul with the Collector, who's like the devil, and basically a bunch of bad stuff happened. You're a band member, you're going through a sprung tent, which is that sprung tent house, so it's not like a soundstage, so I had to, going into this, I had to try to get my mind around that. The sets wouldn't be, as impressive, but boy was I wrong. This could have been a soundstage house. It was that incredible. I mean, it was very dark in there, but if you did it at night when your eyes were adjusted, it was a completely different experience than if you did it during the day and your eyes were not adjusted. So, that's something that I got to do, but I got to go a couple times during the day, a couple times during night. I did a total of 6 times. This house became better and better every time I did it, and the more I went through it. The scare actors in here gave it their all. I know they gave it their all in all the houses, but this one specifically was the most noticeable. Just an incredible house, great scares. Started off towards the bottom of my list, I'm not gonna lie. It was like 7 or 8, and now it went up to second. Just that last week of the event, they really stepped it up. Did not have a bad run through of this house. Very consistent with scares, quality sets, a really good story, great finale, and great characters. So yeah, that's why Darkest Deal is ranked number 2. And finally, my personal favorite and best house at Halloween Horror Nights 2023 is, which you all can see on the screen right now, Universal Monsters Unmasked. I loved this house from start to finish, and it really is a full package. I did this house the most of the year with 9 run-throughs across my 10 event nights. So I did this house basically every single night I was there. I loved it. Incredible house. It actually rains in the beginning. Features very underrated Universal monsters like Phantom of the Opera, Jekyll and Hyde, the Invisible Man, and Quasimodo, aka Hunchback. You get to see all of them tons of times in the house. They all get their moment to shine. Starts off with Phantom, great, walking through the theater, really cool. Then goes to Jekyll and Hyde in the streets of Paris, really neat. Goes to Quasimodo up on a clock tower where there's like a bungee and he jumps down towards you and flies back up. Incredible scare. And then it ends. It actually goes to Invisible Man and then Quasimodo. It goes Invisible Man and then Jekyll and Hyde and then Quasimodo. That's what it was. Invisible Man was short, but it was a really cool section as well. And then at the end, it's the big finale with all of them, and there's a quadruple scare. That was incredible. I did get it one of my times. It was very hard to get all 4 at the same time, but if you do get it, it's really good. Very similar to Legends Collide's triple scare they had at the end with Dracula, Mummy, and Wolfman. This one is just, very intense. This house was one of the scarier houses. Best sets by far. The facade's a giant sewer, and it's actually raining outside. Like, there's rain. It is really cool. They have a dude up top, like, talking to you, warning you about the monsters. And, yeah, you just could go through Paris. I mean, this is just such a creative idea. It has the Phantom of the Opera, which is one of my favorite Universal monsters, and the Invisible Man. And also I had 2 that were very underrated with Jekyll and Hyde and Quasimodo. And Jekyll and Hyde was scary in this house. He got right up in your face. That mask was terrifying. Same one goes for Phantom too, because they gave him a different story with how he wears the mask. Because actually the face of others was kind of like Texas Chainsaw, but that was the only thing that was kind of iffy for me. I didn't really know if that should have had his actual mask, but hey, it's okay. Really great story, really great concept for a house. This is the full package Horror Nights house. This is potentially my favorite house that I've really ever have experienced, because I've only been going since 2019. So I have about 40 houses because there was no event in 2020. So 2019, 10, and then 2020, 2021, 10, and yeah. So that is why Universal Monsters is ranked number 1 on my list of my top 10, or only 10, houses at Universal Studios Halloween Horror Night 2023. Thank you for reaching the end of the video, and if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe for future content. Once again, remember this is my list and not the only list, so comment down below your ranking of all 10 haunted houses offered at this year's event. Also, a huge thank you to everyone involved in bringing us another awesome Halloween Horror Nights event. I know this video is super late, but I'm glad, it's better late than never. And with that, have a great day everyone, and see you in the fog, or Merry Christmas!